in your mind a posh country club. The stuffy old money where the poor get snubbed. The spread is bland, sauerkraut and boiled goose. There's no way these people will ever cut loose. But then I'll walk.
James Houston is the founder of modern geology. He has changed our understanding of the Earth. He was born in 1726 in Scotland, and there he studied lots of subjects until he found the one he most liked. After moving to Edinburgh, he became a leading member of the society called the Oyster Club. There, he got the chance to meet with the economists and philosophers and even other geologists, as well as many other Houston too was puzzled by the question of how ancient marine fossils reached mountain tops. No one has a right answer for this question, and it remained a mystery for so long. However, there were two groups who had totally different explanations. The first group was the Neptunists. They believed that the mountains are so old as the Earth, and the only way marine fossils could reach mountain tops is because of the rise and fall of sea level, where water washed over mountain tops and made them look the way they do today. This answer was very different than the answer opposing group, the Plutonists, came up with. Now, let us know why. The second group, the Plutonists, noticed that nearly all changes which took place on Earth were a result of volcanoes and earthquakes, but definitely had nothing to do with sea. They raised questions like, where did the water go if it wasn't a flood? They were not able to really explain how the fossils got up there. On the other hand, they were still unable to come up with a convincing reason for the question. Perhaps this puzzled people even more. From looking at his own farmland, Newton was able to know how soil was formed. He found that soil was created by the erosion of rock. Also that rocks and particles of the soil were continually washed away by rivers and streams and deposited elsewhere. This means they did not remain in the same place forever. Instead, they were always moving from one place to another. But still, there has to be an additional process where rocks will be forced up to surface again and create new rocks to keep the cycle going. That was the fundamental force. The high pressure and deep within the Earth are what made this process possible. In the 19th century, In the 18th century witnessed the beginning of a real fascination for geology in Great Britain and across the world. As a result, the Geological Society was founded in London in 1807. The founders of the Geological Society, including James Parkinson, who gave his name to the famous disease, and Richard Marchinson, and the author of the Solarian System, a real bestseller, when one of the first fossil hunters. Fossilized species attracted the attention of the Reverend William Buckland of Oxford, a great scholar who conducted several experiments about living species throughout his life. Buckland became the mentor and friend of the popular Charles Lyell, another scientist who devoted his life to geology. At first, Charles Lyell, a son of a wealthy and intellectual family, began a career in law, but Buckland made him discover geology, which became the greatest passion of his life. Later, Lyell was an incomparable master in geology, teaching at King's College in London. He was faithful to Newton's idea and his famous book, The Principles of Geology, published in 1830 and 1833, and he elaborated on them. Controversy between the Cassius and the Uniformitarians took place. The Cassius, amongst them the Reverend Buckland, believed that the Earth underwent many cataclysmic events, such as the Noah's flood, while the Uniformitarians thought that the Earth was continually changing its shape through a long and slow process. If it's true that Newton is the real founder of the Uniformitarian belief, Lyell is considered the true master of those ideas. Lyell believed that the Earth shifts were uniform and fluid, that everything that happened in the past could still be explained by the events happening today, such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. Al said geologists tried to categorize rocks by periods in which they were laid down, but there were often bitter disagreements where to put them down. Stephen J. Cloud was an American paleontologist, historian of science, and biology. He was the founder of the theory of the punctuated equilibrium, which states that the evolutionary changes according rapidly and alternate with very long periods of evolution stability. Punctuated equilibriums attempt to answer a major problem with the fossil record. For almost a century, naturalistic science assumed that the gaps in the fossil record would eventually be filled, and there would be a semi-complete record of the so-called transitional forms between the various species. In fact, the opposite happened, and the gaps became even more pronounced. The actual fossil record indicates species seemingly appearing from nowhere, and without the long, slow, gradual changes expected by classical evolutionary theory. Punctuated equilibrium seeks to answer this problem by supposing that evolution doesn't occur repeatedly, but sporadically. In his book, which explained the history of geology, Stephen J. Cloud stated that until Lyell published his book, most thinking people accepted the idea that Earth is young. This is a controversy to Martin G. S. Redway, who said that all geologists whose work was taken seriously by other geologists installed a definite time scale for the Earth's age. Not even the Bible, it has been stated that God created Earth in the beginning. But when is the beginning? It may be corresponding to millions of years. In the 1700s, many geologists came up with different methods that were intended to calculate the Earth's age. Edmund Halley, an English astronomer and geophysicist, who is the best known for computing the orbit of the eponymous Halley's Comet, which is the most popular of the short-period comets. Comets that have an orbit of less than 200 years. Halley came up with an idea of calculating the Earth's age, which was later considered as a non-scientific experience. He suggested that if one divided the total amount of salt in the sea by the quantity added each year, one will be able to predict the Earth's age. Unfortunately, this method was not applicable since the current amount of salt, as well as the one added each year, is unknown. Also, George Louis Lecquerel Comte de Buffon, a French naturalist whose work influenced the next two generations of naturalists, he published 36 pamphlets of his Histoire naturelle during his lifetime. In addition to further research, in the opening volumes of the Histoire naturelle, Buffon questioned the usefulness of mathematics, criticized Carl Linnaeus' taxonomical approach to natural history, outlined the history of Earth with literal relation to biblical accounts, and proposed a theory of reputation that ran counter to the prevailing theory of pre-existence. As we know, the Earth radiates a certain amount of heat for atmosphere freezing. Thus, Lecquerel designed the first experiment in order to measure the Earth's age, and which was considered a scientific experience. He heated spheres until they glowed white hot, then calculated their heat loss by touching them as they cooled. And so, he estimated the Earth's age to be between 775,000 years old and 158,000 years old. These estimates contradict Darwin's announcement in 1859 in one of the Origins of the Species, where he informed that the geological causes that created the wheel, the large valley that stretches between the north and south downs in south of England, has taken 3,050,2,400 years to complete. This valley used to have a great dome of rocks above it. Therefore, Darwin made his calculations by assuming that these rocks have disappeared because of the sea, which has heat beneath the cliff 500 feet in the height at the area of 1 inch defense. Thank you for listening to this conversation, and we hope you enjoyed this narration.